guys and babies, welcome back to World of Dazzling Stories. I am Ekta. Today we will continue reading The Torchbearers, Part 3, Chapters 1, 2 and 3. The Part 3 says Sparks. I hope you are enjoying this book because you are going to get to know the meaning of the Torchbearers and why our ancient Hindu traditions are so important. The Vedas, the mantras were so important. Sparks. Chapter 1 says, 3 voices. Prem found himself clinging with all his might to the bird's shimmering feathers. He had written enough stories to know that there was only one bird powerful enough to hold both him and Kushal. Garuda, Vishnu's golden eagle. He just never thought that he'd actually see Garuda, much less ride on his back. All of this he realized and thought about much later. In the moment, Garuda took 3 wing strokes to get out of range of the watchtowers. 2 more strokes and he had broken through the monsoon clouds to the sky above. Soon Garuda stopped flapping his wings and soared. Prem spoke to him about the rushing air. So where are you taking us? There was no answer. He repeated the question. More silence. Is Vishnu really gone? How did you know to come for us? Kushal chimed in with his own questions. Is there enough oxygen up there for a human? Do you know what time it is? Could you possibly locate his father and my uncle? When there was still no sound except for the air rushing over them, Kushal turned to Prem. Do you think that maybe he cannot hear us? No, I've read that eagles have great hearing. Maybe he can't understand English. Kushal tried Gujarati, Hindi and Marathi. There was no answer from the eagle. How do you learn so many languages? Prem asked, amazed. Kushal shrugged. Mumbai, he said, as if that explained it. Prem tried a few Spanish words with no effect. Finally he said, I guess we really should just thank you for what you did back then. You saved us big time. I mean, I still don't know exactly how, but you really saved us. Garuda tilted his wings abruptly to the left and then to the right. Prem and Kushal held tightly to his feathers again. Then he folded his wings and dove into the dark clouds beneath them, stomach lurching and ears popping. Prem opened one eye to look at Kushal. Kushal had his eyes squeezed shut, mumbling something through a grimace. The clouds covered them with mist again, but it wasn't raining when they were past the cloud over. Garuda abruptly pulled out of his dive, easing into a sloping descent. The grey sea was calmer below them. The boys opened their eyes and saw an island ahead, its green trees welcoming them with waves and bows. Garuda flew lower and lower until he was parallel with this island. There was dark gold sand on the beach. It sprayed behind them as Garuda skimmed it with his talons. Raising his wings to oppose his momentum, the great eagle stopped gracefully on the beach and stood perfectly still. Silently agreeing that words weren't the best method of communication, the boys joined their hands and bowed their heads, eyes closed. They felt a powerful gust of air. Opening their eyes, Prem and Kushal watched Garuda fly, straight as an arrow towards the setting sun. Prem spoke first, as if he could summon the eagle back. Wait, did he just leave us here, without supervision, on an island? Oh, Prem shook his head. I think that was a one-time thing, man. But Garuda wouldn't save us from certain death to leave us here for uncertain death, would he? Kushal spoke the sentence with hesitation. It certainly seemed true enough. A sound filled the air around them, almost like a whistle stopping and starting. The boys turned towards the trees along the beach. They were dense, the deep green of the tropics. A rustling sounded through the foliage. Then a voice spoke. Uncertain death. Why so optimistic? Another voice replied, we promise a certain death. Speedy or slow, your choice. Our hospitality will have you impressed, and I do mean praised. Yes, squeezed. Such a constrictor. No finesse whatsoever. Why suffocate when you can strike with explicit fangs? Say the third voice. Oh my god, now what were they? I think some animals have come there. Prem and Kushal had backed up until they were knee deep in the waves. A splash followed by a hiss sounded behind them. Perhaps a sea serpent interests you more, yet another voice offered. The boys splashed onto the sand, which began to sift. Snakes of all sizes and species climbed out of the sand. More snakes made their way onto the beach from the trees. Prem and Kushal scanned the writhing masses. They spoke together. Snakes! I hate snakes! Standing back to back, the boys began to strategize, whispering to one another out of the corner of their mouths, keeping their eyes on the snakes surrounding them. A distraction. Like what? Can we take our chances and run over a bunch of them? They'd have us before we took 3 steps. Maybe threaten them with Garuda. Prem raised his voice. You know, Garuda, the king of the eagles, brought us here as his special guest. He would be very offended if something happened to us. Yes, Kushal joined in. He is very concerned for our safety. Snakes retreated a few paces, but then one of the larger snakes, a hooded cobra, spoke. Is that why he left you here? Because of his concern for 2 spindly boys. We're not spindly. He didn't leave us. The hissing that rose from the snake sounded suspiciously like mocking laughter. Fire! Snakes hate fire, Kushal whispered frantically. Yeah, if only we had a torch or something, Prem whispered back. Then he spoke to the snakes again. I'm sure Garuda will be back soon, and then you'll be sorry. But you'll be skeletons by then. Hold still. Cobra moved swiftly towards Kushal's leg, baring its fangs. A voice rang out from the forest, singing a hymn to Agni, the god of fire. A spark crackled in the air above Kushal. Another spark appeared above Prem. They recognized the verse, even though they didn't recognize the voice singing it. Instinctively, Kushal and Prem joined in, singing the hymn from the Rig Veda. Prem tried desperately to keep his mind on Agni's power, instead of the hissing serpents. As the boys' voices struck together, flames sprang up near their feet. The snakes closest to them retreated. As their voices rose, vibrating together, the flames rose and spread, until Kushal's chanting fell to a whisper. It got me, he said, through clenched teeth. Raising his pant leg, he pointed to 2 gashes on his ankle. Prem caught him as he began slumping to the ground. The snakes came closer, emboldened as the fire wavered. The third voice continued singing. However, coming closer, the flames began to flare higher and the snakes began retreating. Prem looked towards the third voice, coming from a figure holding a torch. The voice was full of power, but the figure standing in front of the snakes, fire-lit face glaring, was a young girl. How dare you, Nagas? Are you supposed to be taunting your prey? Playing with your food, hunting for pleasure? The girl stood with bare feet spread apart. Her hair was blowing wildly in the sea breeze, glowing amber in the firelight. She was still lecturing the snakes. Descendants of Vasuki, you call yourselves. Kin of Adishesha. You are not fit to shine the scales of those serpent blades. You cowards, now get away before I get angry. The snakes shuffled. Sorry, our mistake. So stupid of us. They hissed as they disappeared into the sand, the trees, and the ocean. The girl ran to Prem and Kushal, bringing the torch close to Kushal's leg. This should slow the spread of the venom, she said, tipping the packet's contents into Kushal's open mouth. Prem stared in amazement at this girl, who yelled at snakes and carried another medicine packets. Unaware of Prem's bewilderment, the girl continued. He needs help fast. We need to get him to the village. My mother is a doctor. Prem eased Kushal's arm over his shoulders, putting his own arm around the boy's waist. Slowly, they made their way to the trees. Prem kept his eyes on the torch as the girl made her way, sure-footed among the trees. She chatted easily as they walked. By the way, I'm Samu. Actually, it's Samhita, but Samu for short. Wait, so how did you throw the fire towards us? Did you have a second torch or something? No, Samhita responded. We call Agni, the god of fire. You sang the hymn too, didn't you? Yeah, but those are just words. They don't do anything. They aren't just words. They can do things sometimes. Once when I was a baby, I called Agni and I got burned a bit. You know, I've tried to call Agni so many times, but I've never been able to get more than a match lit. How about you? Have the hymns ever worked for you? She didn't wait for Prem's response, but back there on the beach with you both singing the hymn too, that was full on fire, wasn't it? We are almost there, she said. Are you okay? Prem nodded. He was sure his feet and shoulders were going to fall off, but he couldn't stop now. A few minutes later, they came to a clearing which opened to a larger flatland. There was a village lit by torches and a few electrical lights. Samhita led them along a street of tiny huts. People came out to stare at the boys. One of the little children ran over and asked Samhita something in a language Prem had never heard. Samhita answered in the same language with a gesture towards the boys, and the child ran off again. We don't get any visitors, Samhita explained. Here's my mother's clinic. Wait here, I'll go get her. Prem was practically carrying Kushal now, who was pale, his breathing shallow. He eased Kushal's head onto the cot that Samhita prepared, and then placed his legs up as well. He seemed to have passed out by now. When a woman ran out of the clinic's interior, her dark hair was coiled in a long braid. She wore a t-shirt and scrub pants, and she had a stethoscope hung around her neck. She stopped short when she saw the boys, her eyes shining in the lamplight. Then she shook her head and strode forward. I'm Dr. Madhavi. Samhita tells me the boy was bitten by a snake. Her eyes were focused on Kushal's ankle, examining the puncture marks carefully. A viper, Ma, Samhita informed her mother. The doctor nodded. She had a tray of supplies which she began to use to treat Kushal. Her movements were brisk and efficient, but gentle. As she rolled up Kushal's sleeve and cleaned his shoulder with alcohol, she asked quietly, What's his name? Kushal, Prem answered. The doctor inhaled sharply as she paused to fill the injection. Her head bowed over the syringe. She lifted the syringe and injected Kushal with antivenom. She held a cotton ball over the injection site and placed a strip over it. Examining the wound again, she said, It's still bleeding. He must have tried to pull his foot away while the snake's fangs were still in him. I'll have to stitch it up. Prem watched, torn between fascination and horror, as the doctor closed Kushal's wound with tiny stitches. And then Samhita left the injection tray and they reappeared with the phone. The phone was ringing. Her mother, busy with the needle and thread, asked Samhita to put the phone on speaker. Samhita pressed a button and a fuzzy static sounded from the phone. This is Dr. Madhavi. Who's calling? The doctor finished the last stitch. She snipped the thread and put down the scissors. Madhavi, this is Ved. It's an emergency. Amar's here too. The boys are missing. Oh, now see the connection. Madhavi, Amar Mama and Ved, Dr. Professor Tripathi. Oh my God, how are they connected? Let us find out. Dr. Madhavi's face turned pale. Ved! Prem couldn't believe his ears. Dad! Prem! Professor Tripathi's incredulous voice was apparent. Where did you go? How are you there? With shaking hands, she held the phone. Wait, Kushal is here too. There was a pause, filled with static. Then Professor Tripathi spoke. We couldn't find the boys, so we met up at Swar. But how? How did they end up with you? Prem burst out. That's long story, Dad. But first of all, how do you all know each other? What's going on here? Dr. Madhvi hugged the phone to her ear. Oh wait, what should I do? This time there was no pause. Tell them, Madhvi, tell them everything. Amar and I are right here. Tell them the story. And now the story begins. Prophecy, chapter 2. Prophecy means prediction of what might happen in future. Okay, so let's see now what's happening around. Cupping the phone in her hands, Dr. Madhvi turned to look at Kushal, who had come out of his fainting spell during the commotion and was now looking at the doctor wide-eyed. She looked at Prem, who was biting his nails nervously. Her eyes met Samhita's, who looked at her with 1,000 questions. She took a deep breath and began to speak. I know that all three of you have learned ancient hymns from the Vedas. These hymns connect human beings to the immortal gods, who live forever in every era. Their goodness and their powers sometimes hidden, sometimes displayed. Demons, however, aren't immortal, but they reappear in every era in newer forms because evil never dies. Every few of us humans know that gods and demons hide in plain sight. One of the places where the gods were working, though incognito, was at SWAR, a research institute in Mumbai. They use their powers for the good of the world, often working with human beings to accomplish their aims. Several years ago, my best friend and I were those humans working at the institute with the gods. We noticed that the gods were diminishing in strength, that their powers were dwindling. The demons must have noticed too. One night, the demons struck, attacking the institute, destroying research, capturing many of the gods. We arrived the next morning to find it empty. We searched all of the rooms, the labs, the libraries. It was all vandalized, broken, roped. Only one room on the top floor of the building was still locked. We forced the door open and found Brahma, the creator, inside. His foreheads were drooping, like a wilted lotus. The swan next to him had molted its feathers. The pages from the Vedas which he held in his hands were crumbling and drifting away. We rushed to him, asking what had happened, and Brahma said, O gods made bright by wisdom's fire, O gods whose righteous deeds inspire, O gods sustained in living stories, O gods mankind forgets, O gods made bright by wisdom's fire, O gods whose righteous deeds inspire, O gods sustained in living stories, O gods mankind forgets your glories. So demons rise and you decline. 3 worlds eclipsed by dark design, until Torchbearers, children 3, commit 3 books to memory. United, 3 are evils lure, apart, each one remains secure. When Vishnu, fish formed, swim the sea, then one will merge to 3. Their powers, braided, aiming true, will captivate and summon you, returning in the darkest hour, the gods to everlasting power. See, this is what is happening right now in this corona world. Because we have forgotten God's wisdom, we have forgotten the powers of the God, we are neglecting the nature, earth nature, we are neglecting everything of nature, even the gods. So the demons are rising, so the corona is rising, and so it has impacted the whole world. So this is what the Torchbearers are going to tell you. Why and how our Indian hymns and mythology are so important that we need to take care of it. We need to preserve our gods, our cultures, our heritage, our Vedas, our hymns, to protect our future world from the demons. Demons in the form of tsunamis, demons in the form of cyclones, demons in the forms of corona, anything. Please try understand the story and try learn to respect God, the hymns and the Vedas. We asked Brahma what he meant, but he only asked my friend how long he had loved me. Forever, my friend said. Brahma smiled. I knew there was hope. You each have been drawn to Swar to study the scriptures. You each have a flame within you that bursts for ancient wisdom, and now you each have unspoken feelings of love for the other. None of this is coincidence. It is your destiny to make a life together. For your children will be the three torchbearers of the prophecy. How could I say no to the Creator Himself, especially when He was right about our feelings? So I married my best friend, and a year later we had twins. The prophecy had said three torchbearers, so we waited until I was pregnant again. Then we separated to protect the children. My husband kept one twin, my brother kept the other, the unborn child stayed with me. Let me now introduce myself properly. My first name is Madhavi and my maiden last name is Mehta. Hearing the name, Kushal tried to sit up. Dr. Madhavi placed a hand on his shoulder and eased him gently down. Yes, Kushal, Amar Mehta is my brother. She moved her hand from Kushal's shoulder to his cheek, her eyes roaming his face. So you are my mother? Kushal whispered. He clutched her hand. Yes, but that's not all. My maiden last name is Mehta, but that best friend I married was Ved Tripathi. Dr. Madhavi stood up and took a step closer to Prem. You are my twin sons, Prem and Kushal. And how much I've missed you, she said, looking at them tenderly. Prem shook his head and took a step backward. Wait, so I'm just supposed to believe this? Where have you been? I thought you were dead. This is a crazy times. Professor Tripathi spoke. Prem, I know it's a lot to process. Please. Prem was still backing away from Dr. Madhavi's outstretched arms. He bumped into Samhita, who was watching her mother stroke Kushal's hair. He turned on her. What about you? Have you ever heard of us? Samhita took her head, her eyes wide. She looked at her mother. No, never. The doctor put an arm around Samhita. We couldn't tell you. Didn't you understand the prophecy? Prem spoke again. There's no way this prophecy thing is about us. These children three. That's just too weird. Professor Tripathi said, yes, Prem, you, your brother and your sister are the torchbearers, the keepers of the Vedas. The three of you together can call the gods. Is that what you were researching at work? Among other things, yes. But listen, you all are in danger now that you are together. So stay with. Three sharp knocks sounded over Professor Tripathi's voice. Then the phone went dead. So guys, now we are coming near to the torchbearers and who they were. We will continue the story in the next video. Up till then, stay safe. Keep listening to the story. Keep loving our gods and the hymns and the Vedas. They're really powerful and helpful. Alright friends, see you next time. Love you. If you like my video, do like it, share and subscribe to my channel and press the bell button.